They are going. How was your holiday, Rob?
It was good. I was in Portugal.
That's a place to spend the holiday.
You know what I realized while I was over there? They
What?
drink a lot of wine.
And not get drunk?
Yeah, it's like water or something, man. And and the weather is pretty much the same as it is here on the East Coast this time of year, kind of cloudy, overcast, rain, but not too cold. But yeah, it was really cool. So what about you?
Not a lot of work. I love being a salary manager in a retail shop. So, I have no love lost for holidays, unfortunately.
Right. Hey, I understand, man. I understand. It gets expensive too.
Well, I think it's more the people interaction the day after is.
Right.
I find the dichotomy interesting where you have a day of thanks where you're thankful for everything, and the next day you have people essentially trying to run over people for cheap crap.
Well, that's part of the commercialized aspect of it that just kind of is like, really, this is what we've become with our holidays,
I know, right?
But maybe we'll all wake up one day and realize,
And other than that, I haven't really been up to too much. I've been trying to compile some things for a few giveaways I'm looking to do on my own channel.
Awesome.
Like right now, I am staring at a list of video games that roughly equals out about to $150 worth of games that I'm looking to give away.
Now, is that through Steam?
Yeah, they're all Steam keys. So unfortunately, those that like DRM free, I got a few of those kicking around too. Yeah. But yeah,
now you've recently gotten a few devices, haven't you?
I did. I don't know if I actually have my. I recently purchased a Steam controller, if I can actually find it anywhere. Which it is not currently that right here. Steam controller.
Nice.
I got this on a Black Friday sale or Black Friday week sale, whatever Amazon does. But
yeah. How's it work?
I haven't had a lot of, with how work's been, I haven't had a lot of time to really mess with it too much, unfortunately. Tactically, like the tactile feel of it isn't bad. Some of it's just going to require some getting used to. The trackpad thing is kind of a little weird, like conundrum thing to me, but other than that, I like the feel of it. I haven't really had the chance to play many games with it, so.
You picked up a tablet too, right?
Yeah. Actually, I picked up a few different things. This is a Amazon Kindle Fire HD X 8.0, whatever Amazon's friggin' last 8.9 tablet was. So I can't ever keep track. But I really like that tablet. And I also picked up the Amazon Fire TV, the 4K, like the 4K box that they have. Because I had the first gen Fire Stick, which is a great device, starting to show its age.
Right.
It still functions, still works great. Still, it's still usable, but you can tell the interface doesn't load nearly as smooth as on the box that I got. So that's just something.
Now, on the Amazon tablet, I think the last review I read on that thing, isn't the screen like gorgeous on that thing? I think I remember really high marks for the screen.
Yeah, the screen's actually really, really nice. I don't remember the PPI ratio or the actual resolution, but unfortunately I did not. But I mean, typical, and that's not even on the brightest setting right now. So
yeah, cool.
So that's pretty much.
So what's your daily driver? Have you changed since we spoke last?
Right now, the one we're recording this on with anyway, my Ultrabook that I normally record on is still running the desktop thing that you don't like that we discussed last time. that is still running 1604. Stock Ubuntu. I am currently running KDE on Manjaro on my desktop.
Oh, sweet. Liking it?
Yes and no. As I just mentioned before we started recording, I never have liked the way Phonon has handled like how it defaults to certain sound card things. It just always irks me. It's easy to fix, but it's just one of those things where it's like I actually have to go into the sound application, go into Phonon, go into the files, the hierarchy. Use this, use this, use this, use this, and make sure all the recording and communication ones are set to my Blue Yeti microphone as the default. So it's the very first option instead of like my integrated like microphone, my crap line in thing.
Well, for the few quirks, I guess I'll say, in KDE, I still love it. But, I've been digging into GNOME on Antergos, and it's version 3.22 now, and or 3.22.2, and with Wayland. And so I've been running that, and over the past several days, and come around to GNOME much more than I ever thought I would. And I don't know if Wayland has caused, like, it feels very buttery smooth right now. The fonts almost look as good as on a Windows, machine. Hate to have that comparison, but let's face it, the fonts in Windows look great. And the fonts within GNOME 3.22 look almost as good. And I don't know if that's a Wayland thing or just a GNOME thing, as they've updated. But I've got to think that Wayland has something to do with that.
I was listening to the Linux Action Show's review of it when they reviewed, I think, Fedora, and they said they were giving it some really high marks for like smoothness and stuff, like the user, the fluidity, like the user experience just seemed smoother, and that the only equivocal currently that you can get Windows system is by running KWin with KDE.
Yeah.
And I have until more distributions start shipping Wayland as default. Probably not. I'll probably still stick with X and all this other stuff. I prefer video games. I'm sorry, but it does sound interesting. I'm looking forward to see how that closer to bare metal communication is without all the cruff that X has. Why do I have print in my Xorg server?
So So we've been running, let's see, for what, a week and a half now? Is that right?
Yeah,
Bodhi Linux?
Yeah, Bodhi. I have a long history with this distro, actually. Really weird.
Now, I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is it, because as I was reading through this before I installed it, I read some remarks that the previous version was actually like better than this version.
Yes, I don't know, because I didn't really use 3 all that much, so I can't really comment on how version 3 or whatever iteration between the last time I used it and version 4, which is the current one.
Or maybe it was version 2. They were saying version 2 was radically different and so much better. Yeah, that would be it. Because this is version 4, so yeah.
What I do know, now, for those that don't know, Bodhi is saying it's minimalist is an understatement. It uses, I kind of have to backtrack to when I first used it. I used to desktop environment hop, not so much distro hop, but oh, hey, look, there's like FEWM Crystal. I'm going to install that, and I'm going to install KDE and GNOME and Fluxbox and i3 and all these weird window. There was one the UDE, which is the Unix desktop environment, so it uses hex spacing for weird. I just went on this weird kick. Then I found Enlightenment, which is what originally Bodhi, which stands for Enlightenment, is based off of. I do not remember. I want to say it was either the version 3 or version 4. They recently forked Enlightenment. They did not like where I believe the current version of Enlightenment was going. I think it was either 19 or 20. Or 18. The problem with Enlightenment is it's all point releases, so it's like what Wine used to be, where it's like 0.81 or 0.2 or whatever. Enlightenment's been around forever. It's been around since like 95 or 97 or something. That Samsung uses it like in its printers and shit for stuff. It's really weird. But they forked it for Enlightenment 17 or E17 as it's known. And they made the Moshka, excuse me if I'm butchering that name, desktop.
Right.
Which that is probably where where they're talking about the older version being better than the newer one, I think is what you were saying.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
They took out a lot of half-baked ideas that were set into E17 and have refined the code basically to more almost what like Cinnamon did when GNOME 3 was not usable.
Right.
So they took that approach, and that's kind of where Enlightenment falls. I remember when the distro first came out, I was using a distro called MoonOS, which there have been other distros that use Enlightenment as a desktop environment. Elive is one distro that comes to mind. They focus something about Enlightenment on Debian, or Debian is Enlightenment, or something along those lines was the tagline. That distro, I like the distro. Unfortunately, when you have to pay for the installer to actually use it, that's where I kind of tend to take issue. So Enlightenment is minimalistic in and of itself. Bodhi started around, that I remember, was like 904, 910, 1004, as far as like, because it's based on Ubuntu LTSs. So that's like the long, drawn-out history of, and Jeff Hooligan is the guy that is one of basically the main maintainer for it. He's come and gone, he's back now, which is great because when he left, it lacked like a certain level of leadership. It's almost kind of like if like Clem left Linux Mint. You would have direction and you would have a focus. It would continue. It just wouldn't continue with a vision, basically. So it's been around a lot longer. It's been around a lot longer than I thought. And I'd actually had this one on the list for a while. So when you said, "Hey, let's check it out," I was excited to look at it. And then, like you do, we watch everybody else's Linux-related channels. And of course.
And so sudo reboot had a video on it. And, when you boot in for the first time, it looks different than anything you're seeing right now, just based on the theming and everything they have going. It's certainly not the typical flat look that you see now, where everyone puts a Numix theme in place, and so when you first boot in, it's like, okay, yeah, this is different, and then you start to realize, as you said, how different it is. In fact, there's just not much going on there. I mean, it's really a you build it from here kind of distro. They give you the tool. They give you a how did I put this before? They give you a foundation to build it as you will. Here's the foundation. Build your house on it. Figure out how you want your house. Yeah. Here are the tools for you to do it. It's like I'm going to say it's Bodhi Linux is to with Enlightenment Desktop or Moksha. Am I butchering that?
Yeah, I was saying
Moksha Desktop.
Moshka, I think it's Moshka.
Moshka Desktop is to KDE Neon, in that it's pretty minimal once you boot into it. You know, with KDE Neon, you've got to add a lot of various applications to have a fully operational OS, and certainly you've got to here as well. There's no doubt about it.
I was going to say, I want to note there are 2 different ISOs for this distro.
Oh, that's right. Yes, that's right.
The one that the 639 megabyte one that was probably the one we downloaded. Mm-hmm. That is their version of a foundation that I was talking about. They do, however, have another that is like 1.2 gigs that has like a more full experience, if that's what you want to call it. Now, these guys have an interesting way of installing applications, though. It's not the typical. You can do it through Synaptic and whatnot. If you go to their website, they essentially have what God, who is the Windows Mandarin. If you go to the website, you will find this lovely little thing called App Center.
Right.
This is what they call click and run. You legit, if anybody has used any like OMG Ubuntu, how they have some of the click installs and that kind of stuff, or Deb app, or AppDeb, or any of those type of websites, you literally are installing it in the background from the website. So, you know, you'll get the security prompt and all that crap, but that is one way they install it. Now, those are programs that they pick. Now, if you want to go stir crazy, they give you the GUI for Synaptic. They give you, you have LeafPad, I think, for your note taking, and I think they give you the Midori web browser, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, Midori. Yep.
That's it. Those are your applications, not counting like the system settings and that crap. That's all you have if you download the 632.9 megabyte ISO.
I'm going to run through the list since I've got this pulled up on my netbook here.
Yeah.
Run through the application list because we can do this real quick on this particular version. So on accessories, we have ePad. On graphics, we have ePhoto. On internet, you have Midori. And then you have system tools, and that's it. So you have Bodhi Builder, System Updater, and the App Center, and then terminology for the and that is it on that particular, like you said, 630 some odd. Enough, they have a screenshot tool built right into the pop-up menu as opposed to it being like listed in applications. But that is it.
Is it? There is not a lot to this distro. This really is, the best way I can describe it is if you want Arch, like something like Arch, where it's a foundation and you just want to build on it, but you want the Ubuntu base, this is probably your distro. This is the KDE Neon and that kind of stuff. That I really don't know how else to say it other than that. And if you want the long-term support stuff, like if you want stable but you like to customize your house a whole lot, this is the distro for you. I would say this is on par as far as customization options, probably with KDE.
With what?
As far as using the desktop itself, it's probably got just about as many customization options that are buried in the menus to find as KDE.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and just going through here some of the settings, and I'm not very familiar with Enlightenment and then what they've done with Moksha. I'm going to mess it up. I know I am. But
I know we know what you mean.
Yeah. So to be really straightforward about it, I really kind of struggled in the beginning finding my way around to the various settings, like just to go in and change the display resolution, for example. And so from for this particular version, and I want to stipulate that for this particular light version that we are looking at here, to go in as a fairly experienced Linux user and find my way around some of these settings and everything. So version, I'm going to just chalk up to, if you're brand new to Linux, for the bare minimum install, whatever you do, if you want to try this, go for the, what I'll call their everyday user install or whatever. But still, from the standpoint of settings and things, Matt, did you find it as user friendly as other distros? I don't think you're on. You're not. I think you're muted.
I'm probably not the best one to ask because I've used Enlightenment before, so I'm kind of familiar with its quirks that it has. The way that some things are gone about, the settings, they're not the most user-friendly. I'll just be blunt about it. Now, they have made a lot of improvements from the last time I used Bodhi to the new version as far as cleaning up the code and that kind of stuff for it, making some of what used to be really buried, like trying to get to the shell, like the panel at the bottom is called the shelf, and that's what they call it. Now you can move that thing wherever you want. Setting up like virtual desktops used to be weird, like the way it was implemented in E17, E18, when they were building off that was just so weird. Like a right click and add desktop, add desktop. You know, it wasn't like that, or it wasn't like GNOME's way of doing it. It was. You have to go into this distro throwing out every expectation that you have of a desktop in order to use it.
Well, and I would concur with that 100%. In fact, that's kind of what I was telling myself, is that, wow, you really need to spend some time here. And I did. I just sat down and started going through the menu list one by one and the system settings list one by one, because it really was a process of discovery, which I enjoy, you know, because it's learning something new. And I really haven't spent the time with an enlightenment-based desktop to be enlightened, if you will, you know, as to where everything is. And so from that standpoint, that's where I find it interesting. But at the same time, I can't recommend this, not this particular version, and it may be different on the other version. I don't know that, but I can't recommend this for a new Linux user. But I'm intrigued by it from the standpoint of I need to learn it, spend more time with it, and I kind of dig what they've done with the theming and stuff because it's so different.
I do like the fact that the theming is not the typical, flat, like you said, flat theming. Like right now, I'm running KDE or KDE 5, Plasma 5, call it whatever the hell you want. And the whole thing is, everything's flat, from applications to icons to menus. This is not KDE 4. So looking at something like Enlightenment, it's different. It's nice to be able to have something that's going to go and do its own thing. And they're not afraid to, they put it out there too. They're like, we're not afraid to do our own thing. I mean, you're forking a desktop. That is not a small amount of work. Ask the guys over at Cinnamon. Not a small amount of work. So I give them props for doing it. The reason I want to caveat, the reason we chose the minimalist distro is because that is how they view how a distro should be built. That is why I said we should try this particular version, because they are talking about basically build it as you do. Build it however you want. Here are the tools. Here's the hammer. Here are the nails. Here's the screwdriver. Figure it out. And that approach intrigues me. That is not the most user-friendly approach. I think that's why they probably have the other version. We did not try that version. I'm probably going to be blowing away Bodhi. I've used it in production for about a week and a half, and that it's good. It's fat. How did you find the interaction with the desktop in and of itself, though?
Well, I'll back up actually from the install now that you brought that up. So number one, of course, with the file size and everything, and this being an extreme case of minimal install, the install was blazingly fast. And then being based off of Ubuntu anyway, there were no issues. I didn't expect any there because of what it's based off of. And everything about it's very fast. It's fast, it's fluid. And again, I've got this running on a 4 gig netbook here. Certainly not a powerhouse. And yeah, everything about it. The menu launcher, everything, every window I've launched into, it's practically instant. What about you? I think you're muted again.
I use this on my old HP Mini Note. This thing is a 1.6 Intel Atom. 2 gigs of DDR, 2 gigs max DDR2.
What?
So I downloaded the 32-bit, obviously. It works great on it. These type of distros are why I like Linux. I cannot install and have a usable operating system with Windows on this at all. Windows 10,
Man,
Windows 10,
Matt,
Windows 7.
you've got to put Windows 10 on that thing, man. You just got to.
I have words for you, Rob, and I can give you plenty of them, and none of them are nice right now.
Well, you're exactly right. That's what's awesome about Linux. Like this runs as well as anything I've ever put on it. Here's what I would like to see in this, though, for this version. And I know we're talking about 2 dichotomies here as far as distros are concerned. But with Antergos, when you go through the install process, you've got, and it's Cinchi, I think it is, that they use for the installer. You've got a list of options that you can flip a toggle switch for install or don't install during the install process. I would like to see something like that in place for distros like this, KDE Neon included. I like the concept of you're starting bare bones. In fact, there's a reason that I run CyanogenMod Android, because I don't want all that crap that Samsung or whatever brand of phone that I use puts on it. You know what I'm saying? And I like to start from a bare bones CyanogenMod install and then add the apps that I use. And that's what I love about distros like this that are bare bones, KDE Neon included. I feel like I'm really participating in the actual OS itself as to, what I'm putting on it. I feel like I'm building it, I can't think of a better way to describe that. And I think there's certainly always going to be room for distros like that. So I applaud it from that standpoint. I just wish there was, and it's fairly easy to go in, like you said, with their app, what do they call it? Their app center or whatever they call it.
It's the app center on their website.
Yeah.
The best analogy I can think of is this is an engine without the car frame. That's probably the best analogy I can think of. Because it gives you the base. You have the engine, you have the frame. You don't have the body, you don't have the seats, you don't have the interior, you don't have the dome lights, you don't have the lights. They're telling you, go customize it. We don't care. That is probably about the best way to describe how this, like, that is the only comparison I can think of.
Well, I think that's a spot-on comparison. And I don't want distros like this to go away. I think there's always room for a distro like this. Myself, I wouldn't use this as a daily driver. I'm probably just going to keep this though on this netbook, and I'm going to mess around with it more. Like I said, from the speed standpoint, and I just like the fact that it's different. You know, it's different in a lot of ways. From surface level, it's different, and then as you go digging into settings and things, it's totally different. And I'll build up a few apps and kind of put it through more real world use. But right now, from a stability standpoint, everything I've done on it, I see no reason you couldn't take this and install what you want to install and build it up yourself. And you know, I haven't got enough apps that I've run on there to know, you know, if there's issues with any particular apps or anything like that. But I mean, so far I'm impressed with it just for what it is, you know.
Here, like I said, I'm kind of the weird one out of this one because I do have a soft spot for this because this was the distro that got me into using Enlightenment for a while as my primary driving desktop, because you know, that was the distro that got me into that, and it was so different. That to me, this would be like sticking like Fluxbox or something that is just so different on a distro and using that for a while. Out of the comfort zone, it's not GNOME, it's not KDE, it's not XFCE. Like it is. People always talk. The Linux users always talk about, you know, oh, we love choice and we love to explore and all. You know, we love options. I think sometimes to its detriment, things like Enlightenment kind of or the Moshka desktop in this case kind of get left behind. Now, I don't go strictly by distro watch standards as far as what's popular, so I'm not sure what their standing on distro watch is, but it's nice to see that people are taking and building on the technologies that are still around, and that aren't following the I'm going to sound old now, the hipster trend of everything must be flat, everything must be iOS or Android material design. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just starting to show my age.
Well, trust me, man, showing your age is one of those, it's like fine wine. It just gets better. No, anyway. Well, we've got a rating system in place, and so I'll let you go first. What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 10? I think you're muted.
Like you said, there's a duality to this OS. It has two different. It's not looking at two different things, but it can go two different ways for users. So I have to review this as, like, score-wise as the distro that we use. Like, so if you like a car with the engine, but none of the body work done, you're going to be your distro to choose. If you're sick of, if you want to try something different, if you want to really explore Linux, give Bodhi a try. If you are looking, in my case, if you're looking to bring life back to a 8-year-old piece of hardware that you can still use in 2016, give Bodhi a try. There are places for these distros, and so for me, this on that area, I'd probably give this like a 3.5 out of 5. New users, if you're going bare metal, like, you know, bare bones distro, you're looking like 2.5. Now, if you're, I can't talk the other ISO that we didn't download, so I don't know how that one is.
Right. Now, I'm going to back you up. I thought we had a scale of 1 to 10. You're blowing my mind for a minute.
Okay, I will give a 7 to the other one and probably like a 5 on the new user end scale. That better?
I like that. And I like listen, and that's fair what you did there to compare it to new user versus folks like us who, have been through our share of distros. I would give this, I'm going to say 6.5, and for people like us. And for a new user, I'm going to put it down around 3 or maybe 4 for someone new, because like I said, I struggled kind of finding my way around certain things. And, and so for someone brand new, I'm afraid that would be kind of a turnoff to Linux. The likelihood that they stumble upon Bodhi Linux as their very first distro is probably pretty slim, but at any rate, I forgot to ask you, I could not find, well, I was lazy, and I didn't find the kernel version on this. Do you happen to know what it is?
Not know right off the top of my head. I'm assuming it's whatever the LTS. I think it's the 1604 LTS is running right now.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well. So
I think it's what 4.4. I think was the LTS kernel.
Yeah.
So that's probably what's running.
Well, so we're above 5 for users like us,
and we're at 5 and below for users not like us.
If we were Siskel and Ebert, we would both give it thumbs up for users like us.
Yes, very much.
Hey, you're too young to know who those guys are.
I grew up in the 80s.
You don't know? Okay.
I know who Siskel and Ebert are. And no, not from the parody of the Simpsons of the fat guy trying to kill the skinny guy. Or not from the terrible Godzilla movie that they were parodied in.
Well, I got another one for you then. If you remember Siskel and Ebert, oh gosh, what was it called? Oh my goodness, I'm drawing a blank. See what happens when you get old, Matt?
Happens to me, I forget. So.
It was a show about old B movies, and you had a couple of robots and aliens, and you saw their shadow in front of the screen. Oh gosh! And they would sit there and was it Mystery Science Theater? Yes. You remember that?
I do. I remember watching Dark Shadows.
Yes, that's right.
See, what a weird time. I was born in the early-ish 80s, so I went through most of the 80s. I went through the 90s, and I went through the millennial age, and now I'm becoming an old man. Because I remember.
Hey, but you're still.
Well, like, Rob, do you know what? Tell a millennial what a rotary phone is.
Well, that's true. You're right.
I know what that is. They sure as heck won't. But
or 8-track. I had an 8-track player in my first car. And you say 8-track to my son, and he looks at you like, what in the world are you talking about?
The only time I hear 8-track is when there's a music streaming service called 8-track. That is the only time I hear that mentioned now. Yes, the precursor to the cassette tape.
That's right.
Which was prefaced by the 45s. Or for you hipsters, they're friggin' vinyl. Sorry.
Well, what's cool though about technology and especially with Linux, man, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can get into this. You can have fun with it. It's an ageless thing, and the thing that's cool is if you're into learning and you like, and that's part of what makes technology fun for me. I put custom ROMs on my phone because I enjoy trying what people are doing with the custom ROMs. And, I know lots of people who look at me like I'm an absolute idiot for putting something on here that some guy made on my phone. They're like, what? You're putting something on here that some guy made and you have no clue what it is, and you're going to put that on your phone. But it's fun, it's interesting. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you wind up with a great ROM for your phone that improves battery life and allows you to do things that the carriers had locked down at one point. Well, Linux distros are like that. GNU Linux operating systems are like that.
No, you got to remember, you got to add the slash.
That's right, slash. That's right, slash Linux. And sometimes, like this, you find something that's a mix of interesting. Like Bodhi Linux, you find something that's a mix of interesting, but at the same time allows you to get in and kind of learn something new. And that's part of the fun of it. And that's why we love Linux.
I was going to say, I think the reason I liked, like you, what got me into Bodhi was the fact that I've used GNOME. I use GNOME 2. I've used KDE 3.5. I've used KDE 4. Whatever. I've used all the desktops. After a while, they all just kind of get to the same point. You kind of learn the ins and outs, and it's like bouncing back and forth between if you are a Windows user and you go to OS 10, use OS 10, then go back to Windows. You just kind of learn the ins and outs of both OSs, and you're like, yeah, whatever. That's why I like finding all these different desktops and stuff, because as Linux users, I don't want to stop seeking knowledge. That's my thing. And if we don't go looking for it, things like Bodhi and things like Enlightenment or the Moshka desktop aren't going to be looked at. They're not going to get highlighted. They're not going to, they'll be relegated to the pile of other stuff that the Linux community just kind of throws out there and goes, have fun, and, kind of gets lost in the shuffle. And that different experience, and it's not just the hipster thing to be, different. It's not the point of it's a knowledge thing, because what the guys on Bodhi do is completely different from what you'll find on a KDE based distro or a KDE based desktop distro. That's just, I love seeing the different design philosophies, I guess is what I'm saying.
I agree. I agree 100%. And it's good to talk about this stuff, and it's good that people continue to work on it. And the minute that we, like you said, relegate it to the dust pile, then the person or persons that are working on that, come to a point where they say, no one has interest anyway. What does it matter? And you look at what we use day in, day out, the apps that we use, the software, that all started, or the majority of it started with some guy's idea. Program it, build it out. Sometimes it's a team, sometimes it's an individual. And man, we wind up with some awesome stuff that doesn't cost a dime, and you're using it and you go, wow, I used commercial on Windows or Mac. And it's because of multiple things. First of all, the guy got community support. There was excitement around whatever it was, be it the desktop or the software. So there was community support. There was excitement around it. And you know what that does? That gives a guy juice to continue to innovate and to continue to work through the problems. And then if he gets financial support, through donations and things like that, that helps along. So, man, you hit it. You hit the nail on the head. We need to take a look at things like this and talk about it and share it. And, maybe it's not my cup of tea, but like you said, you've got a soft spot in your heart for it from when you started using it back in the day. And you don't want it to go away, because what if there's two innovations there that make it worthwhile for 1 to 5 people that use Linux?
Yeah, no, I hear it. That is why I love Linux. Right? People want to know why I like Linux, because there's always a way to find knowledge.
Yep.
Because I'm not going to lie, I don't know about you, my interactions with the other OSs after a while, it feels like you just can't grow anymore.
Oh yeah, with Windows.
Mm-hmm. Windows, even Mac OS now. I mean, how much have they relegated 90% of the command line commands in Unix to non-existent? So that's the thing that I love. Linux is, like you said, it can be a one-man project. Let us all think about, we're using GNU/Linux, GNU, call it whatever you want. It was started by one dude putting it out on the internet saying, for one build of one PC, of a clone of the PC, I should say, it said, here you go. And look where we are now. We're doing this video on Linux. Well, okay, desktop-wise, we're doing it on Linux.
That's right. Well, and then the Linux kernel has a big part in everything that's going on with what we're doing right now. Yeah. And I certainly don't want to upset Richard Stallman by just generically using the term Linux, but it's gotten to that point, Matt, that the streaming boxes we all use, Android operating system that's on here. I mean, when you look at a custom ROM on your phone, Linux is involved in that, and like you said, man, it started really with one guy who put it out there, and I love it. I don't ever want it to go away. I want these distros to continue. And, at some point you get to where it's like, okay, here comes another version of Linux Mint.
Woo!
So yes,
I
exactly.
love Linux Mint, but my point is like you get to a point of, there's a reason Rob and I picked some of these more different distros, shall we say, because they're not the same. It is not just a different stack of applications built on either GNOME or KDE or XFCE. This is why we've looked at GMAC. This is why we attempted to look at VeltOS. You looked at Farron OS, which is a
and then Pear. We had Pear.
We had Pear. No, Pearl. OS.
That's right. Yeah, not Pear. Yes, Pearl. Yeah.
Now Bodhi. We look at these distros because they are different. They're doing something different. And it's not just a different stack of applications with a different wallpaper, or a different gradient of a wallpaper, and a different icon set. It is legitimately, these are different. Like, if you threw somebody in front of these as an OS and said, this is your OS, stack of, kind of like what you and I do, Rob. Here's a stack of computers, and, we installed different OSs on them. And you threw people in front of them, it's the same, essentially the same kernel/operating system underneath it all, because they only know the pointy, clicky, boxy thing that they interact with. So that is why these distros are awesome. Like these type of distros are awesome, and that's why I really like exploring the different avenues Linux as an operating system and all its fragmentation, quote unquote, that it has. Is part of the beauty of it, while part of, not going to lie, from a developer point of view, potentially part of the ugliness of it too. Right. But as a user, that is the beauty of it.
Absolutely. And you would think by now that I would have had my fill with GNOME or GNOME, whichever. You would think I've had my fill of it. Like, okay, I've been there, I've used it, but guess what? It's evolving, it's changing. There are some awesome extensions that have allowed me to go in and set it up in a way that works better for me and that I appreciate. And I want to use extensions as just one example, as just part of this conversation. Extensions in their own right, just by themselves, are a very small thing, right? You're going to look at extensions and go, okay, this does this. But now they've incorporated it in such a way that I can go in and with one click, I can try out this extension that now allows me in GNOME to remove the little bar in the lower left, the system tray.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that acts as the system tray in the left. And that goes away, and now it's up top where it should be. Nice. Where it should be, in my opinion, things like that, and that's where the discovery process, because that's part of learning, the discovery process of, hey, what if I did this, or if I tried that, or if we use this. And I think that's what's going to keep guys like you and I always coming back to Linux, always trying these different distros, as you said, that are totally different. Yes, they're running the Linux kernel, but beyond that, they're really, really different, is because that discovery process, we want to always be there. At least I hope it's always there. And then, you know, there are people out there now who, if they were to watch this video, they would shake their head and go, I have no clue why you're interested in that. What is wrong with you people? Why would you want something to be different? All I need to do is jump on here and print my Word document and check my email through Gmail and shut this sucker off.
And you know what I say to those people? Sit in front of a PC for 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Sit in front of another PC 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Sit in front of another PC 8, 10, 12 hours a day. Go home. Sit in front of a PC for 3, 4 hours a day. When they all start looking the same, there's no personality. There's no personality. There's nothing that shows you.
That's right.
You cannot have a sense of ownership. I look at Windows 10 and I go, woo, I can change the background.
It's true.
I could do more customization in Windows 7 than I could Windows 10. That is pathetic. Oh, sorry. If you're in tablet mode, you can rearrange the stupid little friggin' boxes.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
The thing that I like, you know, people harp on Linux about, oh my God, you guys throw all the options at you. I'm like, actually, KDE's gotten a lot better about that. I will give them that. GNOME, if this was GNOME 2, I would say there's just about the right amount of customization available and the right amount of simplicity. I still have issues with GNOME 3. There are certain things that there are things that are not baked in that should be baked in. And I'll leave it at that. Kind of like my gripes with Unity. You know, I mentioned that the Unity tweak tool should be the tool that's used with the distro, not a third-party tool. Same kind of with like the extensions for GNOME Tweak and all that stuff. That stuff, though, customization is vitally important to consumers, and it should be, because it gives you a sense of personalization, a sense of ownership, a sense of this is my device. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a tablet, a PC, you know, whatever. Because if someone says, well, all I need to do is this, this, and this, and that's great. But do you go into your... I view technology and the things that I use day to day as part of like the place I live. You know, is my apartment, my house, going to go undecorated, not have like a flavor of me on it? I'm going to have crap on the walls that people aren't going to like. I'm going to have technology and, you know, TVs and, you know, whatever. You're going to have stuff in your home that people are like, why? And all you have to do and really say is, because it's me.
That's right.
And that is why I like the customization aspect of Linux. And as much as I might at times harp on about too much choice, there is a level, like, taking away too much choice is also bad, because then you just got conformity.
Yep, that's exactly right. I'm with you, man, 100%. That's why you see Honda Civics with 20-inch gold-plated rims riding down the road.
As dumb as it may look. Just gonna say. But that is that person's flavor of what they wanted for that car.
That's right. That's right. Well, man, I'm going to wrap it up. hope the weekend's good for you, and looking forward to our next discovery of whatever's new coming down the pike. I would, like you said, you brought up Velt. Go back and check that out again. I have not looked at Velt to see if there's anything new there.
I was going to say that Arch base really interests me, and it took the two things that I really, really like about two other distros. Because remember, like when we talked about Blancon, I really, really liked the menu structure. That was about it. And then they were looking to implement that Raven sidebar or that control center from Deepin type vibe.
Right.
That just seems to me to hit like all the right spots for a distro.
Yeah,
you got you're always up to date.
Well, we'll dig into it some more and see what we can come up with. And again, man, appreciate you taking the time. And I enjoy just, that's the other thing, and I'll let you go. But the reason that we can sit around and talk about stuff like this is because that's the other process, is how much you learn from other people in just chatting about what we both have passion in.
Yeah.
And, if we had, say, a third person in our discussion right now, the terminal, I do everything by terminal. This is how I do this, and this is it. I've got the utmost respect for that person. I'm not going to knock them, because that's the way they love to use Linux. And that's that's so cool about it, But there's a discovery process, a learning process from that person who says, oh man, this is how you can pop into the terminal and, sudo blah, 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 and bam, it's done. That aspect of it too, it's not all graphical, it's but anyway. So, well, man, enjoy your weekend.
You too, Rob. Appreciate you having me on again.
All right, we'll check you later.